Rising fuel costs, driven by supply constraints at the Strait of Hormuz, are hitting independent grocers with a new delivery surcharge. Gary Sands, a senior vice president at the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers, reports. For more on this, here's the story.
Independent grocers across North America and Australia are scrambling to absorb or pass on a fresh wave of fuel surcharges added to supplier invoices, with industry groups warning that the fees will inevitably show up in aisle pricing by midsummer if diesel and transportation costs stay elevated. The Independent Grocers Alliance said last week that when fuel costs rise, they ripple through the entire system, adding it expects price increases to start showing up on store shelves by midsummer as various fees work their way through the supply chain. The group, which represents 2,600 independent stores, noted that distributors are already layering surcharges onto deliveries because of the jump in diesel and shipping rates tied to Middle East disruptions. Food distributors in the U.S., including Sysco, U.S. Foods, and Performance Food Group, impose fuel surcharges in line with national diesel prices, and grocery stores, restaurants, hospitals, and schools are most likely seeing costs for food shipping climb. In Canada, the pressure is landing on thin-margin independents. The Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers reports that suppliers are warning stores of price hikes and fuel surcharges, which are then passed on to consumers. This is particularly challenging for independent grocers with tight margins who are facing double-digit price increases from suppliers, said Senior Vice President Gary Sands. He highlighted the vulnerability of smaller stores, which operate on thin margins and are heavily reliant on suppliers. With the average household receiving just 2 letters per week, mail volume has collapsed, but food shipments still move by truck, and 83% of U.S. agricultural products and 92% of dairy products are transported that way. Diesel prices are up 40% since the beginning of March and 50% compared with last year, averaging $5.401 as of March 30th, according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency. Crude oil traded above $114 a barrel in early April compared to $80 on March 1st. Similar patterns are playing out abroad. John Paul Drake, director of Australia's Drake Supermarkets, said suppliers have been looking at all sorts of different ways to put a fuel tax, a surtax, a fuel levy, call it whatever you want. We're seeing a few interesting things coming up on invoices. While Drake's is trying to hold down pricing, smaller retailers report increased pressure from delivery costs. Lincoln Weimer of Master Grocers Australia said suppliers have raised minimum delivery thresholds from about $130 to $325, hurting small suppliers who don't need that much product. Distributors themselves are caught in the middle. One U.S. distributor told Restaurant Business Online that many of its suppliers are adding fuel surcharges to their invoices and, in turn, it has added fuel surcharges to the invoices of its customers. Knowing it has to be careful not to alienate its independents, or they will go elsewhere. The company added a flat $5 to each customer invoice. About 60% of its independent customers are paying the surcharge, though the fallout is an accounts receivable nightmare. Chain customers face surcharges tied to the case, per contractual agreements.